Football is back. It's game week as the Owls travel to Rutgers to face off against the Scarlet Knights. We'll preview the game and Temple football's 2021 season at large.
Plus, we'll hear from head coach Rod Carey on how the team is getting ready for its season opener. Then, we'll give our season predictions during today's edition of No Huddle. Inside the Nest is live and it starts right now.
Hello everyone and welcome into Inside the Nest. He's Jackson Neal and I'm Ray Dunn. For the first time since 2019, we have a live in-studio version of Inside the Nest and there's plenty to get to.
September is here and that means football is back. Temple kicks off its season against Rutgers this Thursday night. It's a non-conference matchup for the Owls, but these two programs are very familiar with one another. Just 65 miles separate these two universities, and over the years, these schools have suited up against each other 35 times. While Temple is 15-20 in the series, its last win was almost 2 decades ago when the Owls came back on the road for a 20-17 win all the way back in 2002. These teams are renewing this rivalry after an 8-year hiatus, with the last matchup resulting in a 23-20 win for the Scarlet Knights in November of 2013. Looking at this year's matchup, both teams are trying to reverse their results from last year. Temple was winless on the road, while Rutgers was 0-5 at home.
Looking forward to Thursday, the books favor Rutgers as nearly a 2-touchdown favorite. For the Owls to pull off a road upset, the defensive front is going to need to get busy. In Temple's 3 victories over Big Ten programs this decade, the Owls have averaged 10 tackles for loss and 7 sacks per game. Temple's front 7 will be countered by an experienced Rutgers offensive line. However, that group allowed the most tackles for loss in the Big Ten last season.
For Rutgers, the key is going to be getting the ground game going early. Junior running back Isaiah Pacheco has had 10-plus starts in each of the past 2 seasons, and he's the focal point of this Scarlet Knights attack. Last year, he ran for more than 500 yards, which led the squad and had 4 total touchdowns. Getting Pacheco involved will also open up the offense for quarterback Noah Vidral, who did put up more than 1,200 yards in 7 starts in 2020, but also threw 8 interceptions. Having a strong rushing attack, though, could help him cut down on the turnovers. Last week, Rutgers safety Payton Powell announced on Twitter that he will be transferring schools. Powell cited the fact that Rutgers is requiring vaccines for all students as the reason behind his decision. The funny part of this announcement is the trolling Payton got from the official Twitter handle of New Jersey, who quote tweeted him and not only corrected the way he said Rutgers University, but also listed a link to all of the vaccine sites in the state. While Rutgers will be losing Powell to the transfer portal, they did pick up some new players this offseason, including a couple from North Broad.
With more on these former Owls, we bring on Inside the Nest, Eric Chesberger. Hey, Eric.
Thanks, Jackson and Ray. The time for players to enter the transfer portal has come and gone, and so have some names on the Owls roster heading into the season. A few players will be on the field in the Owls season opener. However, instead of cherry and white, they will be playing in Rutgers scarlet red. Juniors David Ngugu and Christian Braswell, as well as senior Ifani Maje, all transferred to Rutgers this past offseason. Maje, a 3-year defensive tackle for the Owls, entered the transfer portal in December, and just 6 days after committing on December 18th, Ngugu joined his former Temple teammate as a newly committed Scarlet Knight after 2 seasons on the Owls' offensive line. Braswell entered the transfer portal in January and held a stat line of 21 tackles, 3 pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 interception in 6 games as a cornerback for the Owls last season. After 3 seasons in Temple's secondary, Braswell committed to Rutgers in April as the second cornerback to transfer out heading into the 2021 season. Braswell will be the one transfer not suiting up for Week 1, or the entire season for that matter, after undergoing knee surgery. These openings in the secondary and on the line on both sides of the ball gives an opportunity for current Owls to fill in the vacancies these 3 players have left. And what a way you can prove you can fill in a position by lining up against the former owner of it in Week 1 of the season. Jackson Ray, back to you guys.
Thank you, Eric. Between former Temple defensive coach Fran Brown and those transfers, there'll be no shortage of familiar faces on that Rutgers side.
Now we turn our attention back to Temple, where head coach Rod Carey addressed the media this week for his first Zoom conference of the regular season. Here's a healthy chunk of what Carey had to say, which started off with his thoughts on the last month and training camp.
All right. No, practice is, it's time to play a game is what it is. Winding up this 25 practice period, and we've changed things up now with pro pads, helmets, half packs, different walkthrough days. The crux of the physical work is done. It's time to play a game. Now, the mental work obviously is a huge piece these last few days going into this. And that'll dictate a lot of how we physically play will be our mental prep in the next days. But it's time to play a game now. So that's where we're at. Practice was good today. Probably a little sluggish to start, coming off of just a walkthrough day yesterday, but then it really picked up at the end. And tomorrow, I'm sure they'll snap right back in. Every time we've taken a little time off with this group, they're a little sluggish to come back, but then they snap in really, really quick. So I've been happy with them from that. And so I would expect tomorrow to be more of the same. And then Friday in my world, Wednesday will be a travel day. And we'll get up there and then be in our routine. So it'll be good. Really a routine that we haven't had for a couple of years. So we're dotting all our I's and crossing all our T's on all that stuff, because I forgot some of it. I was going through notes. I'm like, oh yeah, we do this too. So it'll be good. So I know they got a lot of guys coming back, and then like you said, the pieces that they've added, and the people that they have come back are good too. Now, really, I can't speak to where they're at right now because I only have film on last year, and they were good players last year. You make the assumption that they've improved, just like everybody likes to believe they have at this point, before you play your first game. So it's going to be a challenge. Their defense is going to be a challenge. It's a good defense, and they have good personnel, and they run around, they get to the ball. Well, I just think comfort, right? The more reps he got, the more comfortable it was. It's pretty natural for him because that's what he's done his whole life, is play offense, except for last year when we had him on defense. So just comfort level, and the reps kind of took over, and then it starts to become, you're not thinking, you're reacting again, and you're playing. So that's certainly what we've seen. Really pleased. That whole group, really has improved, and there's a good amount of depth right there, really good amount of depth. So I'm anxious to see them get out and perform. Also different, Sadie really has a good feel for things, but really runs behind his pads. Ruli's got some good elusiveness that, sometimes we got to keep him going forward. Ravon has fantastic vision, and I think Trey's in that same category where he's learning how to get over his pads all the time, and his vision is the thing that with the reps really has started to impress you. And then obviously he's got great speed and ball skills. So and Kyle Dobbins, he's played too. So they all are so different, but I'd say that he's getting his pads down, and he's starting to become that one cut guy, which is really good. He put in the time, and really, as he was getting out on the field, he already had studied and put in the extra time, not just with Coach Landry, but himself. And that paid dividends on the field. And then his ability to read defenses in the pocket under duress, because of the knowledge, he knew what was supposed to happen beforehand, really separated him. He wasn't perfect on decision making. No quarterback ever is, but his decision making, because of all that work, was really, really good. And then Daishir, we've seen some good things from him. You see Shane Hogarth, obviously Leighton Jordan has had a good camp as well. Will Rogers and Manny Walker have had really good camps as well. So we're fortunate to have depth there. Is Boozer a loss? Yeah, because of his experience and how much he's played. Yeah, you bet he is. And he's a big body. So we're replacing that kind of with some unexperienced guys. But it's not like, you know, these guys weren't going to be in the mix anyways. They were going to be anyways because of how they performed. So certainly miss Booz, and he's one that we're going to be anxious to get back when we get him back. Quay came in, a little light and probably, hadn't done a whole lot. That transfer portal can somehow be like a black hole, the guy's ability to train and stuff. And he got here and did a nice job training, got weight back up in a good range. Strength really came back quickly, and then that's progressed this month and really taken that next step. Has a lot of talent, but then a lot of the work he's done has put him in this position right now. The corners, they've done an outstanding job. Cam got here pretty early in the summer, and Key's obviously been here since January. And that's a battle. We have a ton of confidence in Freddie. Freddie's played a lot of football around here. So I view it as we got 3 starters there. And then really Ty Mason has had a fantastic camp as well. Feel good about our depth back on the back end for sure. We were pretty intentional about this with the turnover that we had last year. We were pretty intentional that you look across the college landscape, and what you see is a lot of productivity back for a lot of teams. And we knew at the turnover we had, what we wanted to do is we wanted to go ahead and have productivity coming back in next year and really have a group that can mold and stick together and grow. And with 75% of our roster being sophomores eligibility wise or younger, it means 3 classes, super seniors, seniors, and juniors. That's 25% of our team. We feel good about where we're at. And because that 25% plays a key factor and can really help mature these younger guys a lot quicker. Yeah. DeJuan has gotten, everyone has to take into account now. DeJuan Mathis goes to Georgia and gets diagnosed with a brain injury and can't play. No fall camp, no fall, no spring ball. Gets cleared to play football. Comes back and wins the starting job at Georgia in 1 fall camp. Things don't go good, and there's a parting of the ways there, and he doesn't finish the fall. So he's had 1 fall camp, and then he's had 1 spring ball, and now another fall camp, this fall camp, in his college career since high school. So the amount of reps that he gets are like times 10 because his growth keeps going. So what do I expect to see out of him? A lot of what I've seen in practice from him, which is just the growth, the reads, the delivering of the ball. He operates, he has good comfort with everything. So I expect him to go out and execute at a high level, with his arm and with his feet and with his mind. So that's my expectations because I get to see it every day.
It's time for our first break. When we come back, Inside the Nest reporter Emily Cochran will take you through the Owls' migration north in mid-August.
We'll also be giving our season predictions during No Huddle, so don't touch that remote. Inside the Nest will be back in just 90 seconds. Welcome back to Inside the Nest. Last year, due to COVID, Temple barely had a training camp as Philadelphia placed strict guidelines on the way they held most practices.
This season, the team escaped Philly for a healthy chunk of time during the most important part of training camp. Let's welcome in Inside the Nest reporter Emily Cochran, who's over at the studio set. Hi, Emily.
Thanks, guys. The Temple football program decided to move its training camp to the Bronx to reduce the risk of COVID-related issues. But it also allowed the Owls to grow closer as a team while exploring a brand new city. From August 4th to August 14th, the Owls found a home away from home. The entire team moved its preseason training camp to the Bronx, New York.
This camp life is nothing to play around about.
For the first time, the team held camp away from its North Philly nest. Here, the Owls were isolated to some degree on the SUNY Maritime College campus, where they practiced for 3 hours each day.
It's been hot. The practices has been long.
Camp has been probably the hardest that they've been to, that I've been around since I've been here.
But there is hope that the benefits will far outweigh the long hours in the heat of the August sun. Those 11 days allowed the Owls to focus solely on football.
I think it was good for the guys to get out their comfort zone a little bit and, eliminate some of the distractions and just focus on football.
With no distractions, no COVID interruptions, and not a single Philly cheesesteak in sight, the Owls had the chance to focus on football, bond as a team, and of course, explore a historical new city.
Going to the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. The museum and the memorial were just unbelievable.
As much as we're here to play football, we're also a family. We're also going to grow together. So being able to converse with each other about any and everything is one of the main priorities that we feel necessary for us to succeed in any way possible.
Each summer, the team practices hard regardless of the city they're in. But come this Thursday, the Owls hope their long hours on the field in the Bronx reflect on their play at Rutgers and beyond. As the Owls grow a stronger bond off the field, there is hope that their on-field performance will improve as well, especially during this year's season opener against Rutgers. Jackson and Ray, back to you guys.
Thanks, Emily. We are right up against our second break. When we come back, it's time to go no huddle.
Plus, we'll update you on a former Temple Owl who had a big day in the pros. Inside the Nest will be back after this short break.
Welcome back to Inside the Nest. It's time for my favorite part of the week, and it's only Tuesday. That's right, we're going no huddle.
3 questions, about 4 minutes to the goal line, no timeouts. Let's get this started.
First up, we've talked a lot about Temple's troubles from last season, 1-6, 0 wins on the road. What do you feel will be the biggest challenge this season?
I'm going to have to say Temple's defensive line. Over the offseason, they lost a lot of players in the transfer portal, and while they did pick up some guys, it's still a question mark. Right now, they have Nick Baggs and Jaquavion Mahone listed as starters on the interior, but that's still not a huge known. They don't have a lot of experience at the college level, and they're going to need to step up quickly if they hope to not have the same result as last year, where Temple allowed over 200 yards per game on the ground.
I'm going to take what you said and go to the broader scope. Continuity is what I'm looking for in this team. It's going to be a big problem. They only have 10 returning starters after the injury to Evan Boozer. They have 5 of their 11 starters on defense as transfers and a transfer quarterback. There's just a lot of change happening with this team. Rod Carey said in his press conference, talking about how the most successful programs just have continuity, have players coming back, have performances from last season carrying over. The Owls don't have that right now, and it might take them a few games to get to that level.
And speaking of transfers, to win, you need impact players. Let's look at these new guys. Who will be the most impactful transfer this season?
I mentioned Will Rogers last week, and I'm going to mention him again. The Washington State defensive end transfers in, and now with the starting job without Evan Boozer, he is going to be one of the premier pass rushers of this team. Jeff Knowles has been very complimentary of him. He and Manny Walker are going to need to be driving forces in this game against Rutgers this week. Rogers brings a pedigree. He led Washington State in sacks in 2019, and we all know what Walter Stewart can do with that defensive line. The defensive line coach for the Owls creates studs.
I'm going to stay on the defense, and I'm going to say cornerback Keyshawn Paul. Paul comes in from the University of Connecticut, where he didn't play last year because they canceled their season due to COVID, but let's go back to 2019. He started all 12 games, recorded 36 tackles, including 2.5 for a loss. And this year, Temple is playing some great offenses, including experienced college quarterbacks like Desmond Ridder for Cincinnati, Dylan Gabriel for Central Florida, and Phil Jerkovic for Boston College. Right now, Paul is listed as a starter in the defensive backfield, and they're going to need him to step up to stop these explosive offenses.
Well, you looked at the season at large. We are heading into week 1. This is the only time this year where we can ask this question, at least if we are starting from scratch. Jackson, what will Temple's record be this year?
I'm going to mark it down and say they're going to go 4-8 this season. They have a tough non-conference slate playing against rising Power 5 teams like Boston College and Rutgers, and in conference doesn't get much easier. Most of their winnable games are on the road: South Florida, Tulsa, East Carolina. Then they host conference contenders: Memphis, Central Florida. Still got to travel to Cincinnati. They're going to be a big underdog there. I say they get 2 out of conference against Wagner and Akron, and they're able to find 2 more W's in the AAC.
All right, I'm going to be a little bit more optimistic than you, but not too much. I'm going 5-7 for this team. The wins against Akron and Wagner, those make sense to me. USF and Navy appear to be wins in my book. I think you have two real toss-ups on the schedule if you just go by what's on paper, and we know that's not how this game works. But ECU and Houston, both programs didn't have great seasons last year. I spent the summer in Eastern Carolina. I know what they're expecting out of ECU, Houston Ailers, and that squad. They're supposed to be better, but I think the Owls still have a chance to beat them. Houston, down year last year, they've got great expectations on that program. I still think the Owls can give them a game again. I'm going 5-7, just missing out on bowl eligibility.
Okay. Well, now our offense has to huddle up and take a break, but don't go anywhere. Coming up, we will tell you which two Owls earned a game ball in the pros over the weekend. One is a former tight end, and one is sitting about 40 feet from our anchor desk.
We'll explain when Inside the Nest comes back in 90 seconds.
It's preseason, because it means something to y'all, all right? And it shows. It means something to y'all. Where's your boy? I got
That is New York Jets head coach Robert Saleh giving the game ball to former Temple Owl Kenny Yeboah after the Jets tied the Philadelphia Eagles 31-31 in preseason play. The tight end caught 4 passes for exactly 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, including the game-tying Hail Mary as time expired.
We'll see if the current Owls have as much success in North Jersey as Yeboah did on Friday night. Before that, we want to know how you feel. Will Rod Carey and his crew emerge victorious on the road? Or will the Schiano man make the Scarlet Knights feel all right? You've heard what we have to say, but we want to know your opinion. Log on to Twitter and find us at Owl Sports Update. Our question is simply, who will win on Thursday night, Temple or Rutgers?
Make sure you stay tuned for complete coverage for all Temple sports. Inside the Nest is live every Tuesday at noon on TUTV, followed by Owl Sports Update on Thursdays, also at 12. Then give us a follow on social media at Owl Sports Update and catch our weekly sports brief posted on Mondays on both Instagram and Twitter around lunchtime.
Finally, props to one of our own here at Inside the Nest. At Citizens Bank Park, producer Jake Chesberger made full use of his final weekend without Temple football. When Odubel Herrera launched a home run in Saturday night's Phillies game, Jake leapt into action. I'm calling into question the legitimacy of the so-called catch, but it was enough to get some airtime and a game ball. Jake with the hands. As for us, we are out of time. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week with a game to talk about Jackson. How do you think that game's going to go?
I right now have Rutgers winning that 27-13. I think they're going to be too good, especially at home. How about you?
I will take Rutgers as well. Closer game. Let's give it 24-13.
24-13. Oh, similar ones right there. Both a double-digit win we have for the Scarlet Knights. It sure will be a good one this Thursday night when Temple and Rutgers get their season started. Don't forget to follow our Thursday night coverage of the opener. We will have a crew at the game, including our beat reporter Eric Chesberger. For Ray Dunn and the entire Inside the Nest crew, I'm Jackson Neal. See you next Tuesday.